Hunted the Demon's Forge. I'm gonna need a drink to get through this one. Hunted the Demon's Forge is one of the worst games I've ever played. And I know that phrase gets thrown around a bunch, especially by me, but this time I really mean it. How this thing ever got greenlit is beyond me, let alone releasing with the audacity to charge $60 for what feels like some college student's school project. This one has been on my backlog for all of 14 years since it was released. I mean, a third-person action RPG from Bethesda with a focus on co-op.
What could possibly go wrong?
Now all I need to do is invite my friends over to play with me. Well, since I don't have any friends, I resorted to playing with myself, alone, in a dark room, with my right hand stroking the controller and my left hand cupping my... Whoa. Things got a little hot there for a moment. What were we talking about again? Oh yeah, was Hunted the Demon's Forge actually good? Released in 2011, Hunted the Demon's Forge was unfortunately brought to us by In Exile Entertainment, the studio behind the Bard's Tale and the Wasteland series, which sorta surprised me. I really like both of those series for their humor. Wasteland 2 and 3 especially are great games as spiritual successors to the original 2D Fallout games. Hunted was published by Bethesda Softworks, releasing in the same year as Skyrim, Rage, and just to double down on their terrible releases in May of 2011, they released it a few weeks after Brink. The game was originally named just Hunted, and they later added the stupid-ass subtitle to appease the founder of In Exile Entertainment, Brian Fargo. The first game Brian ever released back in 1981 was a graphical text adventure called The Demon's Forge. Brian would later go on to found Interplay, the company behind some of the best RPGs ever made, like Fallout, Icewind Dale, and Planescape Torment, to name a few. I bring this up because the name is so fucking stupid that it has no relevance at all to this game. There's no Demon's Forge here. It's just a mad lib of random ass fantasy sounding words slapped together. So I'm not gonna call it that, I'm just gonna call it Hunted. Hunted tells the story of two mercenaries, Caddick and Alara, as they go on a journey that strings them along from one objective after another, hoping to finally get paid when all of this is all over. Instead, the pair are always arriving just a little too late everywhere they go. Hunted is one of those generic fantasy action adventure games. You know the ones. It was billed as an action RPG for the Gears of War era, with many reviewers calling it Gears of War meets Diablo. And I don't know what the fuck those morons were smoking, but this is nothing like Gears of War or Diablo. For one, those are actually good games. It's like Gears of War for 3 reasons. It has a third-person over-the-shoulder camera, you can take cover to avoid getting shot at by enemy archers, and there are 2 protagonists with a focus on co-op. So how is it like Diablo? Well, there are swords, bows, and magic. That's it. What do you want? That's it. This is what the combat in Hunted looks like. I'm just gonna show you a clip from near the end of the game. Now here is a clip of the combat from earlier on in the game. Could you spot the difference? Probably not. It's the most unimpressive fantasy combat you will ever experience in a video game. It's so unimpressive, and there's such a lack of progression that I actually switched those clips and showed you a clip from the beginning of the game before the clip from the end of the game. If the footage looks a little dark, that's just how the game was made. They really put the dark in dark fantasy to the point where you can't see anything as you go through these caves. I ended up cranking some settings on my TV to make it more tolerable to play, but that didn't change the footage that I recorded. Hunted stars the 2 protagonists, and you can freely switch between them at these purple crystals throughout the adventure. I played most of the game as Caddick because I figured just sitting back and shooting things would get stale. Going in with melee sounds way cooler when there's an opportunity to dish out some pain with some really cool abilities as I slice and dice or smash the enemies to pieces. Boy, was I naive. Even if you pick Caddick, you still have access to a crossbow, and Alara still has access to a sword and shield, so neither character is really locked out of either style. What separates them is the abilities that they have access to, but we'll come back to those in a minute. For the melee combat, you only get a light attack, a heavy attack, and the ability to block with your shield. Attacks have no weight or impact to them whatsoever. You'll just swing wildly, with the only indication that you hit the enemy being that their health bar at the top of the screen decreases a little bit. Even blocking attacks has no weight to it. And you don't even get a true heavy attack. As you attack or block enemies' attacks, this skull will fill up. Once it's yellow, you'll get added fury damage on your attacks. Once you press the Y button, it will unleash all of the fury to add bonus damage to your attacks. There's no stat sheet for your character. You won't be picking up all sorts of loot drops and calculating the most optimal way to play or improve your character's damage or survivability. Here is an example of what the character sheet looks like. Throughout the 12-hour campaign, I only found about 3 or 4 armor upgrades, and I don't mean that I saw a bunch and there were only like 3 or 4 that were worth picking up. No, I really mean that I only found 3 or 4 total armor drops in the entire game. As for the weapons, you'll find these destructible weapon racks throughout the world that drop new weapons. The weapons only have 3 stats on them: light attack damage, the fury bonus damage you get once your bar is filled, and how quickly it generates that fury. You'll need only the most complex of calculators to figure out which of the 2 items is better. Some weapons have magic properties to them, but all that really means is that occasionally they'll do a little burst of cold, fire, or purple damage, and I have no idea what the purple is because it's never actually written or explained anywhere in the game.
I want that purple stuff.
But the weapon only has a few charges of the magic damage that's available to it, and you don't get to control when it procs. Instead, you just spam the light attack button and it will happen on its own until the weapon runs out of charges and it loses its magical state. And somehow the shields are equally as poorly implemented. They have a durability stat, meaning they can break and you'll be stranded unless you find a new one. And they break about as often as weapons do in Breath of the Wild. Even if you find a magic shield, it will only get additional fire resistance or cold resistance or maybe some armor. Very useful stats when you consider that enemies don't do any specific damage types that you need to resist against. Alara and Kadok each have their own magic and combat ability trees to upgrade. As you kill enemies or explore the world, you'll get these crystals to spend on unlocking or upgrading an ability. And just like everything else, this system is laughably bad. One big issue being that you can only slot in 4 magic abilities, making it pointless to upgrade all 6 of them. But you won't want to anyway. Alara and Kadok each have their own 3 combat abilities. Alara's got an arrow that can immediately break enemies' shields, a fire arrow that explodes, and a frost arrow for freezing the enemies, which is easily the best of the bunch. Kadok has a pointless whirlwind ability that makes enemies float in the air. Here I thought it was going to let me spin around and attack enemies like a whirlwind, you know, kind of like Diablo. Instead, you can't move or attack during it, so it's really just a setup for Alara to deal damage while the enemies are floating. He's also got a buff that makes him faster and stronger, but his best ability, and the only one worth a damn, is the dash attack. You'll see me using this in all of the combat footage. Not only does this close distance on enemies, it can break their shields and it can send enemies ragdolling to the ground. So I just spam this shit in every fight. The only thing that kind of sucks about this is that the physics of the game are so bad that you can't hit an enemy that's on the ground. As I mentioned, Kadok and Alara can both use other magic spells, a lightning bolt, a fireball, or a sigil that makes enemies take more damage. If you're wondering why I didn't use more of these, the gameplay mechanics to use them are fucking atrocious. Not only do you have to select the spell with the D-pad, you also then have to hit the right bumper to switch to your spell mode, then hit the right bumper again to cast it. And I really don't get why I have to hit the button twice. And if you're in spell mode and you want to block an enemy's attack, you have to press X to switch to your sword before you can then press the left trigger to block. And you die in like 2 or 3 hits, so you're really fucked if an enemy gets on you while you're in spell mode. I ended up just assigning the spells to Alara and letting her do it, and thankfully the last upgrade in the tree turns the spell into a buff for your ally. And this thing fucking shreds enemies. I spent most of the final fights just praying that the AI would buff me because the damage increase from these buffs is so unbelievably unbalanced. And thank fucking God that they didn't balance it. It's so welcome when you finally get this ability. You die in about 3 hits from enemy melee attacks, and you do have health potions as represented by these 3 red dots. Just press the left bumper to use one of your red dots and heal up. But there's no animation that plays. Kadok doesn't pull out a potion and start drinking it. There are also mana potions in the game, but they automatically trigger when you deplete your mana. I didn't think I'd ever see a game where they ran out of budget for healing animations, but here we are. If you lose all your health, you'll be knocked down and your partner can throw a revive potion at you from across the map to heal you. I only ended up fully dying about 2 or 3 times during the whole 12-hour experience because Alara just kept chucking these revive potions at me. But it all just coalesces into this mindless slog. Within hours of starting the game, you'll just be dashing at enemies, knocking them over, being unable to finish them off, and getting knocked down as you fight through the dark cave tunnels, shooting at enemies with your crossbow, rinse and repeat. And unfortunately, the story isn't worth the disc that it's printed on either. Alara is voiced by Laura Bailey of all people. Alara is an elf, not a human. Remember this, it's a joke that they'll make about 6 times during the course of the game. Alara's main personality trait is her obsession with wearing as little armor as possible. Apparently, she likes to blow things up and set things on fire. Caddick literally will not shut the hell up about it. Caddick is voiced by Graham McTavish, the same man who voiced Dante in Dante's Inferno. And somehow I just stumbled into making 2 videos starring Graham McTavish back to back.
I'm being cautious. If something's waiting for us, it's best to be prepared.
You worry too much.
And you don't worry enough.
Worrying gets you nothing but wrinkles, old man.
Old man? You're twice my age, elf. And half as mature.
And 10 times prettier. There. The entrance to the fountain is just across that bridge.
So it is. What do you say we go make a fortune, girl?
Caddick has some backstory about his family having died and he wasn't there, but I don't really know what's going on because they never actually explain it. The only thing they do explain is that he's afraid of spiders.
Don't tell me you're afraid of demons as well as bugs.
I'm not afraid of bugs, just concerned by them.
The game opens up with Caddick having a dream about this suicide girl inviting him to subscribe to her OF. This is Seraphine. Seraphine is the ghost wife of an undead, vengeful dragon slayer with ambitions to destroy the world. Seraphine tempts Caddick to take this stone here called a death stone. Alara ends up taking the stone instead, which causes all sorts of problems because she's an elf and not a human. Again, a joke that will be made about 5 times throughout this game. Grabbing the death stone causes a vision of this badass dragon slaying motherfucker, and Seraphine makes it known that he's aware of them and that he's coming for them. Which sounds like a really fucking cool setup for a plot, but nope, actually that's not what happens. Old boy here isn't even mentioned or seen until the last bit of the game. Seraphine sends Caddick and Alara to meet with her father, the mayor of the town of Dyfed, and so begins the trend of arriving just a little too late. Dyfed is already under siege by these orcs, or I'm sorry, they're called Wargar in this game. So our heroes,
We're not heroes.
So our mercenary duo fights through the town to reach the mayor hiding in his vault. The mayor wants them to go save his daughter that was captured by the Wargar. After some forceful haggling for the reward of 15,000 gold each for saving her, the two head into the Wargar caves in search of the slaves and Seraphine. Along the way, the two discover that the Wargar are drinking a silver liquid called slag that makes them aggressive and stronger. And then Seraphine shows up to explain it to them. And you being the eagle-eyed viewer that you are, you probably are asking why Seraphine is here if they're trying to find her for her father. Don't look at me, I have no fucking idea. I think the writers just fell asleep at their desk. Fighting through the caves, the two find the Wargar with the slag and a giant spider queen.
Is that? Oh, I don't like this one bit. That giant spider is molting.
To get through the forces, Caddick ends up drinking some of the slag, which is really fucking badass because it makes you pretty much invulnerable with crazy high damage and, more importantly, unlimited mana for constant shield charges. Using the Death Stone, the two see visions of this mystery villain demanding the slaves in exchange for the Wargar supply of slag. Passing the molted exoskeleton of the Spider Queen, the pair make it to the massive cave where she chases the duo in one of the most poorly framed chase scenes I've ever seen developed in a video game. She runs behind you, so you have to turn your camera around to see her, and you want to see her because after like 3 hours, she's the coolest thing that you've seen in this whole game. But she's not even the worst bug in this room, as you and your AI companion can get caught on invisible walls and trapped underneath her. You'll reach a ballista and shoot the stalactite to drop it through her head and kill her, and yeah, that's it for the boss that you've been seeing for the last hour. Seraphine shows up again and says that her physical body is still on the move, and I think someone on the writing staff just finally woke up. The pair battle through the wilds to find the prisoners and save them to ask if they've seen the mayor's daughter. Deathspank here gives them some directions, which leads them to discover that the Minotaurs are also working with the Wargar. If it weren't for the subtitles, I would actually have no idea what happened during this cutscene because for some reason, this poorly developed game doesn't understand default audio devices on PC and was playing the 240p 30 FPS cutscene audio in my little in-ear headphone rather than on my TV, but only for the cutscene and not for anything else. After some more tedious fighting of these tanky Minotaurs, we discover a priestess guarding the prisoners onto the boat, and she's the chapter boss. This is how that fight went. Then our duo heads to the city of Lear, which is under siege by the Minotaur and the Wargar. They meet up with another Deathspank and ask about the prisoners.
Did you? Was the Lord Mayor's daughter among them?
Pale skin, dark hair, slutty outfit.
Doesn't ring a bell. All the rescued prisoners were taken to the Scarlet Maid Tavern, where the king is.
We know the place.
It really is just too bad that they never tell us any fucking backstory for any of these characters.
Slutty outfit. You'll want to talk.
The pair fight through the town to reach the Scarlet Maid and the king. Along the way, they spot a giant ogre. And that's gonna be one of the coolest boss fights in this game, right? Right? Then we get a fucking exposition dump from the king.
For years, Lear and its outlying lands were plagued by a great black dragon that dwelt in the ruined city of Kalamur. I hired a Nuvin at great cost to slay the beast. I even gave him one of Lear's most powerful items, the Death Stone, in the hopes it would help him. Anuvin and his companions ventured into the depths of Kalamur. They were never heard from again, nor was the dragon. We assumed Anuvin perished while slaying the beast. I sent my men to investigate. That's how we learned that Anuvin survived. He had made Kalamur his stronghold. He had gathered there an army of Minotaur and Wargar and creatures of evil. And now, he brings ruin down upon us.
I am sorry for your plight, but we've just come for the girl. Is she here or not?
Thankfully, Caddoc and Alara aren't heroes, so they don't give a fuck about the plot or saving the world. They just want to find the girl and get paid. So they have the king bring out the daughter. And it turns out it's not actually Seraphine. So they figure out her ruse and discover that she isn't the mayor's daughter.
What do you want from us, damn it? We're not here to save the world, or even save one blazing city. We're not heroes.
No. No, you're not.
Then the pair just say fuck it and become heroes and go after Anuvin, battling demons and using machine gun ballistas to fight through the forces. Getting inside the fortress, they come across a pit and fight a dragon by shooting it with well-placed ballistas. And I will say, it is really cool that the dragons fire lightning bolts instead of traditional fire, but good god, this shit is fucking frustrating the way it knocks you down. It takes a bunch of shots from these ballistas to eventually kill the smooth-skinned, textureless dragon. Using the Death Stone on the dragon lets our mercenaries, learn that Anuvin captured the dragons using the Death Stone, but the stone was stolen from him by someone he trusted. Anuvin goes so fucking hardcore that he rips out the eyes of the dragons in order to blind them and condemns the strongest dragons deeper inside the caves. It sounds like another setup for a really epic boss fight, right? Right? Caddoc and Alara fight through the caves, going down these elevators to transport some slag to a room against another demon. Then they end up finding a man with slag pouring from his eyes and his tongue cut from his mouth. Caddoc says that they should just kill him so they can use the Death Zone to see what he's seen, but Alara gets all upset about it because that would mean that they're going to be murdering him, even though they just said that death would be an escape from all of his pain. So Caddoc ends up killing him, then gets sad that he didn't mean to, but he was just overcome by the slag that he's now addicted to. Using the Death Stone, they find out that the prisoners were actually being sacrificed and dropped into the slag to feed it and grow its power. And I gotta be that guy to point out that this means Caddoc has been drinking liquefied people. Then they go through a cavern where they see 2 dragons ready to fight, but they decide to instead to just use the Death Stone to turn them away. And that's the last you're gonna see of the dragons. There's no boss fight. What a fucking letdown.
How adorable. Seraphine's little puppets. Come to dance for me.
We're no puppets.
Of course not. You're heroes.
No, but we're as close as it gets.
And he jumps into the Slag and turns into Katava, the Unsatiable, from Path of Exile. And the final boss fight kicks off as you shoot him in the glowing fuck me lights while fending off skeletons. Anuvin has 2 attacks. This claps shockwave that you have to take cover to avoid, and the damage applies immediately when he claps. There's no window for you to get into cover. You have to be fucking perfect. And 1 hit from this takes you down to half health. Why is there even a shockwave that comes off of this if the damage happens the moment his hands touch each other? His other attack is the most deadly thing known to man. Bubbles. Eventually, he'll start channeling into one of these 4 pillars, and you just gotta run up and press B, then mash the A button for way too long, and the pillar just kind of explodes from the force of the push. More and more skeletons will climb out of the pool that Anuvin is hiding in, and if they touch you while you're pushing the pillar, you'll get stopped and miss your window to push it down, meaning that it's back to aiming at the giant fuck me lights. So this whole fight, my AI partner Alara was fucking useless. She just sat at the top of the stairs in cover and only shot at the skeletons after they climbed the stairs. At least she can throw regen vials at me to get me back up. That is, except for this time when I actually knocked all 4 of the pillars down, but I got knocked down myself, and she was fucking down too. This whole fight is just a frustrating chore. With Anuvin dead, our mercenaries, use the Death Stone to learn his story in glorious 240p. In this cutscene, we learn that Anuvin went into the dragon's lair with Seraphine and 2 others. The 2 others were killed, and Anuvin slayed the dragon. Then he murdered his beloved Seraphine when his eyes were glowing silver from the Slag. Seraphine shows up to Caddoc and Alara to explain that it was the Slag behind all of this tragedy. The Slag is apparently an ancient evil that needs a mortal as a host to do its bidding. A mortal that's willing to sacrifice the person dearest to them, a body more powerful than the previous host. So Seraphine got Caddoc and Alara to become stronger than Anuvin ever could be, so that they'd defeat him and free him and apparently herself. But first, one of them needs to slay the other. And at this point, I thought my live stream chat was right when they said that the final boss was going to be Alara, but it's way fucking worse than that. And I'm just going to let this play out unedited because you won't believe it. I didn't.
Caddoc and I would never turn on each other. We won't be slaves to your cycle.
But you already are. You drank the slag of your own free will, for your own benefit. Its power is already at work within you.
No, I'm in control of my own... Oh, Caddoc. I'm sorry, old man. I never should have touched that stone.
What the? What? What? So as I'm writing this, I actually learned that there are 3 endings for this game. 2 of them are bad endings where whoever drank the slag all the way back in chapter 2 kills the other. So how do you get the good ending? By choosing not to drink the slag in any of the chapters. Get the fuck out of here. The good ending still has Seraphine trying to gaslight them by saying that they drank the slag of their own accord, which is awkward as fuck because they didn't.
Its power is already at work within you.
I don't know about you, but I feel no power at work.
A bit of indigestion, perhaps. We'd no more than a taste of the stuff.
I think there's only one person here under the power of the slag.
Then the 2 decide that they can just destroy the Death Stone to get rid of Seraphine. Then they think they can just bury the entrance to the cave. And for some fucking reason, they just forget about turning in the mayor's daughter to get the gold reward because they start yapping about places they can go and treasures they can find and walk off into the sunset.
Dorian, blood of the gods, There are spiders there the size of your arm.
Don't be a baby, old man. They're just bugs.
The size of your arm.
That Wargar spider was bigger than your arm.
We agreed not to talk about that.
Yes.
But oh fucking what a twist that there's some fucking rat that just climbs out of the hole with glowing eyes from the slag. And that is how the game ends. So no, Hunt of the Demon's Forge, it's not actually good. Don't waste any of your money on it. Don't spend the hard drive space on it. Don't spend $60 on it. Don't spend $10 on it. Don't be like me and spend $4 on it. It probably would be a lot more fun if you played this with a friend, but I mean, anything is more fun if you play it with friends. There really isn't anything I can say that's good, aside from maybe a few of Caddick's spider jokes. There's just nothing interesting about this world. We don't even get to know anything about what happened in this world, these cities, these towns. All we know is that there was some war that went on. But fuck it, man. There is nothing in this game that is redeeming or worth your time. So don't look back wondering if this game was any good. And if you do end up playing it, or if you have played it, just do like I do and drink the pain away. Wait, what's that? Oh, well, I guess I have to go kill my best friend now.
Stop! You violated the law. Pay the court a fine or serve your sentence.
Should never touch anything called a Death Stone.